in the Kentucky Derby.
Move around the turn. The leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for clean.
Next for third is in the center of the racetrack. The Admiral Sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem is pulling away. He's got another gear.
Yeah, the Swiss they come in the Derby. Wheel away takes command.
Lion Hart is all Hart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here is the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle's Slow of 1976.
Good morning, everyone. There's a little bit of a chill in the air here at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky, but the Oaks and Derby horses absolutely love it. And about a half hour from now, you'll get to see them live on the racetrack during the designated training period. Welcome to the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show presented by Twin Spires. We are glad to have you. Take a look at the headlines. Wood 1-2 finishers Albus and Right to Party logged their penultimate Kentucky works under the Twin Spires. The Puma, incredible to merging market amongst those that tuned up. Outside of Churchill, their arrivals are pending. Otinho out, that means Chief Wallaby draws in, vaults his way into the Kentucky Derby top 20 for Belmont and Junior Alvarado. Bella Ballerina, she headlined Saturday's Kentucky Oaks Work Tab with a very interesting drill, to say the least. And White Abario, well, he got the best of our Kentucky Derby winner from last year's Sovereignty. His 4-year-old debut finishes a tremendous second in the Oaklawn Handicap. Joe Krzyzewek, Tony Kalo joining you day 3 of the Kentucky Derby morning workout show. Tony, we've seen a lot the last couple of days, more to take a look at today and a lot to digest.
Yeah, we've seen the top contenders put in their second to last works. They've all looked pretty good. Little chill in the air. I'm fired up. You're fired up. We know the horses will be fired up with this cool air.
Tony and I are in the nice, cozy studio here at Churchill Downs. We've got a fan blowing on us, keeping us invigorated, but there's no question that our team spread across Churchill Downs is raring to go. We're going to start with Kevin Kilroy. We're excited here on the desk, Kevin, and I know you are too.
Yeah, just up here again at Millionaires Row, ready to watch these horses on the track. It is a little bit chilly, but this is how it goes this time of year. Every year I've been here for the past 5, we've had these cold mornings. So about 40 degrees out. Track is fast. We had some rain come through yesterday, but it looks fantastic, dried out nicely. Thinking back about yesterday, Chip Honcho, when I was just watching up here, I thought, it wasn't too much. But looking at the times and thinking back about the partner, I think that was a very stiff drill for the Steve Asmussen trainee who had talked about the Preakness on the outside looking in at the 21 spot on the AE list. 47 through 4 furlongs, a nice 6th best of the works in terms of the 5 furlong time with corporate power, graded stakes placed. I think that was a very good drill for the big guys. So I'm looking to see him in the starting gates in the Kentucky Derby. Caitlin Benson on the backside, ready to lead us through with some good interviews this morning. How's it going, Caitlin?
It's going good, Kevin. It's a little chilly back here, but it's not too bad. I was thinking it was going to be a little bit worse, but big news yesterday in the afternoon developing with Otinho coming out of the Derby. Dave Grinning from the Daily Racing Form caught up with Chad Brown, and he's going to look forward to the Preakness or Peter Pan with Otinho and says he's going to take a little bit more time with Iron Honor to make a decision. If he doesn't go to the Derby, he's probably going to go to the Preakness as well. And Silent Tactic arrived here yesterday. He was on track earlier this morning. We'll probably have some footage of that, and some arrivals coming up later on the day include probably the Puma as well as Emerging Market also for the Chad Brown barn. Interviews coming up the rest of this week and next. Going to be a lot of the connections as far as the Derby and Oaks goes. We're going to start that off today with KK and Caleb having set the table nicely, but we're going to talk to a man that is set to start his first 2 Kentucky Derby starters. Ren, where are you at over there this morning?
Well, I am chilling literally at the Brendan Walsh barn. It's been so cool, though, to watch everybody out here working so hard despite the temperatures not being exactly accommodating. But yeah, we saw Silent Tactic on track today, along with Counting Stars from Mark Cassie. I'm going to try to catch up with Brendan a little later to ask him about Bella Ballerina's work at Keeneland yesterday. Of course, we know her half-sister, Pretty Mischievous, won the Kentucky Oaks in 2023. We'll see if little sister can do the same. But again, so much to talk about. I know you're going to be talking to Riley. I got a little pedigree spot on Albus and so much more. But for now, it's going to be back to you, Joe and Tony, nice and toasty in the studio there.
Yeah, Ren's dressed appropriately though. She's got the cap on and the gloves representing the Kentucky Oaks colors as we take a look at the Derby leaderboard. No real news or defections outside of, one we expected yesterday in Otinho as we move to the second page. It allows Cheap Wallaby to move into 17, 18, 19, 20. Obviously, Tony, are the foreign horses. Cheap Wallaby, a great ad.
A great addition to the Kentucky Derby. We all wanted to see him draw in. He is in. The question now, stark contrast, Iron Honor. If one of them defects, it opens it up for Chip Honcho if he wants to go.
And there he is on the outside looking in. He would certainly add some speed to this year's Kentucky Derby pace. All right, we saw that Chief Wallaby gets into the field. He's trained by last year's Kentucky Derby winning trainer Bill Mott, and Caitlin Benson standing by with a gentleman who knows all about it.
He certainly does, and you have to go all the way back to 1964 for the last father and son to face off in the Kentucky Derby, joined here by Riley Mott. And I saw an interview with you early on in the week talking about your father, Bill, and at this point in his career versus where you are now, took him a little while to get to the Derby. You got him beat there, and you got two horses coming in.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, he started training when he was like 14 or 15, so different paths to get to where we are. I asked him the other day. I said, "How old were you when you had your first Derby start?" And he said, "I think I was 30." So he does have me on the age front, but anyway, no, it's just really cool to be here. We're creeping closer towards Derby Day, and just to be here at Churchill with a couple contenders is super special.
Let's go ahead and pivot to Incredible, the first of two Derby starters that you have. You didn't think it really took to the surface all that well at Gulfstream for the Holy Bowl. How hard is it as a trainer in a race like the Kentucky Derby where you have to have qualifying points way ahead of time to pivot and to maybe change plans like that?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, as a trainer, you just look for all the indicators that the horse is doing well, appetite, condition, health, the way he's training his workouts. He gave us no real reason as to why he ran so poorly other than not handling the surface that day. Luckily, that turned out to be the case. He came back and ran really well in the Virginia Derby. Certainly it was a calculated move going to Virginia. Just I think we, thought about the timing of it, the potential field that he would face, and we thought maybe the track surface might be akin to Churchill, which we know he likes. So, there was definitely several factors that went into it, and it paid off.
The Virginia Derby was an exceptional performance from him. One thing that I was curious about, that's a one-turn mile and an eighth. Is there anything you have to tweak training-wise with this horse to get him to run the same way and better at the two-turn mile and a quarter?
Not necessarily. I mean, I know it's certainly a factor that people will look at, maybe from a handicapping angle. But for me, I just don't want to overcomplicate it. Just do what got us to this point, and that's just keep him as healthy and happy as possible. And he's a horse that puts a lot into his workouts. He's won at 2 turns here at Churchill Downs last year as a 2-year-old. And he's bred to go all day. So, not trying to reinvent the wheel necessarily, but really pleased with how he's doing, and we're optimistic.
Also going to bring in Wood Memorial winner Albus, 2 for 2 in his 3-year-old year, won that race off of the maiden victory. This is a horse that it just seems like he's really starting to get going, really stepping up with added extra distance. There's a ton of upside to him coming into this race.
Definitely. He's a horse that we equally liked last year as a 2-year-old. He and Incredible were, both sort of the two that separated themselves from our bunch of babies last year. And took him a little while to, get his feet underneath him. He came into 2026 as a maiden, started him out at Tampa this year, which was a really good spot, I thought. 2 turns and just something to kind of propel him into hopefully stakes company, and he did that, and we took a shot in the wood, and it paid off, and looks like a horse that could, as you said, potentially continue improving.
Both of these horses owned by Pin Oakstead. I know you and your dad were very, very close to Jim Bernhard. It has to just be so gratifying bringing these horses in here in these colors.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, you know, the Derby tends to have a way to bring light a lot of interesting storylines. I wouldn't call it necessarily a happy storyline. You know, we certainly are mourning the loss of Mr. Bernhard, but these two horses on the Derby Trail have certainly brought some amount of joy to the family, and hope that continues.
Well, congratulations on this big accomplishment, getting these two horses here, and we're really looking forward to seeing what they do, and we'll see you at the draw coming up in a few days.
Thanks so much.
Riley Mott joining me here on the backside, going to be sending out Incredible and Albus in the 151st Kentucky Derby.
Well, thank you, Caitlin. Riley Mott is just so well-spoken. He's such a good trainer, comes from great bloodlines. Two starters in this year's Kentucky Derby. We see the first-time Kentucky Derby participants. Cherie DeVoe, she's another trainer that I think is going to have multiple Derby and Oaks-type starters moving forward in her career.
Yeah, she's a tremendous trainer. And there's Mark Glatt. I've known Mark for years. Haven't talked to him in quite a while, but he was at Bay Meadows for many years. A great trainer. His father was a good trainer up in the Northwest. A lot of good horsemen come from the Pacific Northwest.
All right, we've gotten a little bit of a read on Albus's past performances. For a deeper dive into his family, let's send it back to Ren Carruthers.
Well, as we keep talking about, it's all about that 1.25 miles for these 3-year-old colts. He's proven at 9. Can he get the distance of the Kentucky Derby? Well, yes, he's by Yapon. Yapon won the Grade 1 Forgo, so we're thinking speed, right? Don't forget, Yapon, he's a son of Uncle Mo. Uncle Mo, he actually won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at 1.16 miles here at Churchill Downs. I know the Classic didn't go so well, but then his dad's Indian Charlie. He was 3rd in the Kentucky Derby. And then Yapon, he's out of a Vindication mare. Vindication is a son of Seattle Slew, Triple Crown champion, and we get more Slew on the bottom side because this boy's dam, a dream, daughter of Bernardini, champion Bernardini, son of AP Indy, Hall of Famer, son of Seattle Slew, out of a Secretariat mare, by the way. And then a dream herself. She is a half-sister to Grade 1 winner Dream Rush, whose Grade 1 winning daughter, Dreaming of Julia, is the dam of two-time champion Malathot, whose wins include the Breeders' Cup Distaff as well as the Kentucky Oaks. And then the second dam, daughter of Unbridled, who won the Derby in 1990. So those are pretty stout Kentucky Derby credentials. So we'll see, Joe. And Tony, back to you.
All right, thank you, Ren. And there you see Yalpan, the sire, as Ren mentioned, sprint influences on the top side. But again, you dig a little bit deeper, you see a horse that's proven himself on the track in Albus around 2 turns, 2 for 2 this year. And he had a work yesterday under the twin Spires. He goes 49 seconds flat. 5 furlongs and 102 1/5 on the gallop out, according to Churchill Downs clocker Adam Wallace. And Tony, we mentioned it. Horse continues to improve. We talked about it yesterday. How much upside does he have?
That's the question. It seems like he's going in the right direction on the inside here. Very eager to go early, and I'll give him credit. He finally comes back to his exercise rider, and when he does, he relaxes nicely, and it's a solid move from him moving forward.
Kevin, we talk about these workouts and these work mates and what the resumes are. Theoretical on the outside, 0 for 4, no better than 4th so far in his young career.
Yeah, you got to think that he's a horse that's coming into his own. I thought he put a good work on the outside as well. Theoretical entered my stable mill after this move. Albus is a horse that we've been watching at Churchill since he was a 2-year-old. As a 2-year-old, he seemed like a big puppy. You know, he had the size to him, and he just wasn't quite within himself. Now he is, very much so. We could see it obviously in the Wood Memorial. You can see it in this move. He's within himself. He's moving very well. He does this very easily. You got to think that Riley Mott's quite happy with this first work since the Wood Memorial. We do see Theoretical sort of get him late in the work and the gallop out, but I thought this was a solid move from a horse that, you know, has always had the potential. Maybe a little more weight on him would make me think a little bit more highly of him, but I do think that Albus is doing as well as he could at this point.
Wouldn't be a bad idea to write down these sparring partners' names. They win a lot Kentucky Derby week here at Churchill Downs. We're going to move on to Right to Party. We're going to spare you the Beastie Boys rap this time around, Tony Kalo. Right to Party, again, a couple of placings in the graded stakes in New York.
Seems to be coming into his own. Obviously, he's going to have to really step his game up quite a bit. His speed figures are significantly lesser than his rivals. I'll give him credit, and Ren Carruthers is the one that brought it to my attention. The Wood Memorial was his first time around 2 turns, and it was a nice closing second. The question is the anticipated pace in the Kentucky Derby. Will he get enough pace to chase to make his presence felt late?
5 furlongs in 1 minute and 4 ticks. John Nichols catching him in 1:14.1 for the gallop out, Kevin. And again, we talk about workmates, very connected, is on the inside here. 1 for 8 lifetime, but he is graded stakes place.
Graded stakes place. They thought enough of him to send him over to the Middle East to try his go there. He's an honest horse, typically a late runner who's just keeps on coming down the stretch. He's on the inside here, setting the tempo for Right to Party. You know, Right to Party, seeing him in his full stride here in a move. I think he's fit and looking good coming out of that Wood Memorial, which I had a little bit of question marks just seeing him on the track when he was galloping. He looked a little tight, so it's good to see him loose and moving well. Robbie works with him out of this into the first turn and gets him to surge a little bit ahead of his stablemate there. So that was kind of good to see. Not too sharp of a time at 1:14, going 6 furlongs in terms of the gallop out. So Right to Party still on the outside in terms of the contenders list.
Trained by Ken McPeak, and the exercise rider, as Kevin alluded to, Robbie Alvarado. And after this work yesterday morning, we caught up with both.
You can't overcomplicate preparation. You know, I think a horse either can get the distance or it can't, but we do concentrate on trying to do 12s works. If you can hit 12 seconds for every 1/8 of a mile around there, you're going to win most derbies. But it's a matter of teaching a horse to do that. And like I said, Jimmy Jerkins had him early on, and he's had him up in New York. But this horse understands what to do out there, and his work today was very professional, which is exactly what we needed. His speed numbers need to show that he's faster than he's been, but the Wood was his first 2-turn race. So he's really just kind of getting going, and he's going to need to propel himself forward. I'm going to say 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 lengths going 1.25 miles. But I've seen it happen. I think it reminiscent of Sarava years ago. In 2002 was a horse that knew how to grind it out, and when he won the Belmont, he just ground it out. And the pace set up for him, and he was in the right spot at the right time and got it done. So, we're going into this Derby, cautiously optimistic, and the horse is healthy as can be. He's an easy horse to be around, and he seemed to handle the surface well this morning, and, all systems go at this point.
This is a nice horse. He comes from way off the pace. He's trained well this week so far, and his work was nice. He galloped out really good. Looking forward to a good race. Obviously, we need some pace in the race. We need pace in the race to see it come from behind her, and a great trip. We need a good trip. The Derby's the most reckless race in the history of horse racing, and you have to have a clean trip. Unless you're Cal Morrell, you stay on the fence.
Robbie Alvarado, very accomplished former rider, big part of the Ken McPeak team. There you see Kenny's Derby record. The most memorable of all of his 11 starters, far and away, 2024 with Mystic Dan.
One of the greatest finishes of all time in the Kentucky Derby. 3 horses on the line. Travis Stone with a tremendous call in an international thriller. It's Mystic Dan.
Mystic Dan, a Kentucky Derby winner for Ken McPeak. Mage, a Kentucky Derby winner for this trainer, Gustavo Delgado. He's got the Puma. And Tony's got a good resume on paper, but I think he might be even a little bit better than that.
Yeah, he seems to be really coming into his own. He's had to do a lot in a short span. He debuted on the 10th of January, and he's had very short span between each of his starts. 3 weeks recently, very unconventional, from the Tampa Bay Derby victory into the Florida Derby. Now he gets 5 weeks. It doesn't seem like it's affected him any bit at all in this workout. He looks great in this work, and he seems to be getting stronger and stronger.
What is conventional is the way Gustavo Delgado trains, at least for him, really picking up the times and the speed as this work continues to progress, Kevin.
Joe, I mean, we see that he's basically doing the first 5 furlongs on his own. Javier Castellano, in town to ride, does start to urge him just a touch, some quick little shoulder taps after the first that 5 furlongs, and he really goes sharp through a mile. This is a great work. This is what we saw Gustavo do with the Mage to get it done. in the Kentucky Derby 2 years ago. Last week, the talk was, did he go too slow? Are there concerns? Maybe the exercise rider was a little bit too cautious to not ask too much from him. But I think that this is the work that proves that he's in as good a form as you could hope.
Man, this is impressive. And it's been a big year in sports for Venezuela. Javier Castellano, Gustavo Sr. and Junior Delgado. They won the World Baseball Classic. Can they win the Kentucky Derby in the same year? We'll have to wait a couple of weeks to find out. Emerging market, aptly named Tony. He's only had 2 career starts. This is not something Chad Brown would normally do. He skipped the Derby and won the Preakness before with talented 3-year-olds, but he's going straight in to the Kentucky Derby off of those 2 victories in the Louisiana Derby. Very quickly, Tony, then we're going to send it to Ren.
Yeah, emerging market, undefeated 2 starts, and very inexperienced, but a lot of upside.
Let's go to Ren Carruthers. She got to see this horse at Tampa.
Yeah. Yes, I was there for his debut. As you know, I'm the analyst for Tampa Bay Downs, and I gotta tell you, our jaws dropped when we watched Emerging Market and Power Chef duking it out down the stretch. And I'll tell you what, Emerging Market came out on top, stopping the clock in 1:39.11 That's less than a second off the track record, and we run a ton of mile 40 races down at Tampa. So that was such an impressive victory. We were so excited to see what he was going to do next. And obviously what he's done is nothing but impress. And Power Shift, as you know, we recently saw him in action working out with Renegade, who is right now one of the favorites, of course, for the Kentucky Derby. So really cool, exciting horse, Emerging Market. And I look forward to doing a pedigree profile on him going forward, Joe.
Kevin, let's take it front side here.
Yeah, you know, this move impresses me because favorable scenario, a lightly raced older horse, 6-year-old, is getting urged a little bit on the outside while Emerging Market is just keeping him at bay all on his own without the rider having to ask. Chad Brown, all the talk ahead of the Louisiana Derby was his mental maturity was what was so impressive about him, and he just shows that he's a true racehorse.
Favorable scenario on the outside here. He's 1 for 5. He's an allowance miler. He's run some fast races, so a good workmate for Emerging Market, who puts him away late. Chip Honcho, he had to work here yesterday under the Twin Spires, and he's looking to get back on track to some extent, Tony.
Yeah, very good effort in the Risen Star with a solid second place finish, just coming up a little empty to the horse that many people thought was going to be the Kentucky Derby favorite, Paladin. Regress in the Louisiana Derby, a fast pace going a mile and 3/16. I'd like to see him draw into the race, obviously, and draw an outside post and maybe secure a stalking trip. There's not a lot of anticipated pace. He could be forward, and he could be dangerous.
It's always important to watch these workouts back, Kevin. A very, very fast time, fast splits. 12-1, 23-4, 35-1, 47-1, according to John Nichols.
Yeah, he's being asked. He's got the greatest stakes place, stablemate, relatively recent addition to Steve Asmussen's barn, corporate power on the inside. He's bigger than him. Chip Honcho is a monster. So it looked like they were going easy. They were going quite fast. So I love to see this. I think the Kentucky Derby is circled. I think Steve will run if he gets in.
Steve Asmussen, one of the greatest trainers of all time. Dude's almost won 11,000 races in his career, a Hall of Famer. He's won just about every Grade 1 stakes you can imagine. But the Kentucky Derby has been elusive to Mr. Steve so far. He suffered a major heartbreak a couple of years ago with Epicenter, Tony, as he was caught late by the long shot Rich Strike when it looked like he was home free.
Boy, we were all snapping our fingers. I was already counting my money and figuring where I was going to spend it on Sunday.
No doubt about it. Maybe some of you had the superfecta. It was all about the structure. All right, we have taken a look at a lot of the Kentucky Derby horses on video. We're going to take a look at a lot of them live during the designated training period about 7 minutes from now. But after this, a closer look at the Oaks.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With Twin Spires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires. And now you can race to victory with Twin Spires tournaments.
With over 200 flavor notes to discover, every sip of Woodford Reserve bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby morning workout show presented by Twin Spires. We're going to shift gears from the Kentucky Derby to the Run for the Lilies, the first Friday in May for the 3-year-old fillies going a mile and an eighth. Let's take a look, Tony, at the Kentucky Oaks points leaderboard. And man, you need a lot of points to get into the Oaks this year.
It's a very contentious group of 3-year-old fillies. It is wide open top to bottom. I still have no idea who my eventual top pick will be. As of right now, it's number 4 in the point standings, Counting Stars. I've liked her body of work.
Just an update here, always a runner. Yesterday, Chad Brown did say that Jose Ortiz is going to pick up the mount on her as we take a look at the second page. And again, 14 horses in the Oaks versus 20 for the Kentucky Derby. You see 15 through 18. Those are on the outside looking in. Bella Ballerina had a very interesting work again yesterday. We're going to take a look at that in a moment, but no doubt she's got tremendous pedigree. Her half-sister won the Kentucky Oaks for the same connections a few years ago. And let's take a look at Bella Ballerina. She's going to be on the inside here. The time is pretty quick. Now the stablemates are Diamond Eye Jack, who's 0 for 5, a maiden miler, and Get Them Roses. We got to see that one at Fairgrounds as well. 0 for 3, so the workmates aren't overly accomplished, but it's more how they set this work up and how it was orchestrated, Tony.
I haven't seen this work yet, so it's going to be very interesting to see how she finishes up. Right now, spotting her rivals a little more than 2 lengths heading into the turn. You know, when she looked sensational winning the Golden Rod, she had a fast flow presented in front of her, and she sat very comfortably. This work is somewhat reminiscent of that.
Kevin, it's a progression. Horses need to be taught. You could tell that Bella Ballerina very eager early on to catch up with the workmates, that Tyler doing his best to hold her in place.
Yeah, there's a whole story here. I mean, we saw Bella Ballerina at Fairgrounds where she was fresh and she was keen, and Brendan Walsh has recognized that maybe she's doing a little bit too much early in her races, particularly on the backside. So the work before this, she sat behind these 2 stablemates and was not allowed to pass. This was the one where they gave her the green light, and they gave her the green light on the inside. It was just according to design, and she just accomplished it quite well. Big energy in the gallop out. They've got a plan with her. They're being very intentional, and it's really cool to see how well she's doing.
Training racehorses is like molding a piece of clay, and when you get that piece of clay to the piece of art that you're looking for and to achieve, that's when you can really take on horses like Kentucky Oaks caliber the first Friday in May. We've got Ren Carruthers standing by with the trainer of Bella Ballerina live. Ren?
Oh, sorry. Hey, guys. Thank you so much. So I am with Brendan Walsh, who's got Bella Ballerina getting through her paces as we look toward the Kentucky Oaks. Of course, we know in 2023, it was pretty mischievous, her half-sister who got it done. How cool is this to have the family members being so consistent? The path they're following is so similar.
Very similar, Rain. Yeah, it is pretty cool. You know, as we all know, her sister was a great filly. This one looks like to be following in her footsteps, but she's still got a ways to go.
Now, I know that she's worn blinkers through her career. You've been working her without.
Yeah, we had been doing that anyway. We kind of just had them for her races. You know, we left them off the last few works. We still haven't decided whether we're going to run her in them or not. That's probably we'll decide probably after her last work. But yeah, no, everything is going good and we're happy with her, and she's coming over here today. So.
And the other thing I noticed, talking about the similar paths they've taken, both won the Rachel Alexandra, both ran second in the Fairgrounds Oaks. But as we saw, Pretty Mischievous came through in the Kentucky Oaks itself. Daughter of Into Mischief, this one's a daughter of a Kentucky Derby winner in Street Sense. So how does that feel when you're coming into that Friday?
Oh, it feels great. I mean, it's great to be a part of it and to have a live chance of it. It's what everybody lives for, anyone that trains. So no, it's fantastic, and the fact that she's got a shot to win it is even better.
And so thank you so much, Brendan, for everything, and we look forward to seeing if Bella Ballerina can follow in the footsteps of Pretty Mischievous. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Ren. Thanks, Brendan. And talk about adding or subtracting equipment for big races. A lot of people a little bit skeptical of that move, but you got to remember, with Pretty Mischievous, Brendan put the blinkers on when she won the Kentucky Oaks, and she's a little bit headstrong even when she's sitting behind horses there, so it'll be really interesting to see what Brendan does.
I trust what Brendan's going to do. He's been spot on the last couple of years. You know, Bella Ballerina is very intriguing because a lot of handicappers will look at the recent defeat and they will hold that against her to a high level. So you could get a lot more value than anticipated coming off a victory.
Pretty Mischievous came off a second. She wanted a nice price there, and Getty Empress threw in a clunker in her penultimate race before the Kentucky Oaks. She wanted a big price.
Bella Ballerina, Counting Stars, and Percy's Bar, I believe, are the only three that have won over the Churchill Down surface.
Horse coming in off of a win. Hasn't won at Churchill yet is meaning for Michael McCarthy, coming in from Southern California, where she's been the queen, I would have to say, Tony, particularly off that Santa Anita Oaks win. This was her couple days ago, actually, at Santa Anita, and she is on the outside, and we've seen a lot of nice moves by the Oaks and Derby contenders. This is another one of them.
This was a very good move. She really put this rival away in the concluding stages. She was relatively inexperienced entering the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly off a victory, a maiden special weight victory about 5 weeks previous to that start, and she ran a fourth. It wasn't a great effort, but it wasn't a bad effort. I think she's bigger and stronger and better as a 3-year-old, and she is definitely one of the top contenders.
Kevin, in my time at Churchill Downs, this is maybe one of the most competitive, wide-open Oaks. Whoever you're like, you're going to probably get the price that you do like, and Meaning's going to be right there amongst the favorites, you would guess.
Yeah, she's a big-time contender. She's physically so impressive. Mike McCarthy keeps on talking about each race. She's more and more professional. She's always worked with good company. She puts a great move in here, 4 furlongs, 48-3, relaxed on her own. I can't wait to see her at Churchill, guys.
All right, on the outside, you see Meaning with a really nice gallop up there. On the outside looking in, one of a few that are hoping to draw into the Oaks with some defections. Laura Lee for Mike Moneymaker. Coming off a win, gate to wire in the Bourbonette Oaks at Turfway, where you called her victory.
It was a solid victory. She was coming out of a defeat in a sprint race, and she really stretched her speed very nicely, and she looked like she was going to give it up in about the 8th pole, but she found something from within. The question is, how will she translate moving over from the synthetic to the dirt?
A lot of fans watching that are fans of gray horses. We saw White Abario, one of those, win the Oaklawn Park Handicap yesterday. And big fan of grays, David Portnoy for Barstool Sports. And this is his filly, the Go-Go Gray stable. Lovely gray. She's lovely, and man, she's excited to be out there.
She's the runner-up to Lorelei Lee in the Bourbonette Oaks. She is the one that I thought was coming over the top. Dave, my apologies. I gave her such a huge call because I've called so many races, and I'm like, here's the winner on the outside. And she just came up just a tad short, but it was a heck of a run.
No doubt about it. All right, you see plenty of energy on the racetrack there from lovely Gray. That was yesterday morning, just a gallop from her. All right, so, betting, wagering, that's a big part of what we're going to be doing the next few weeks. Churchill Downs opens just 6 days from now, and Twin Spires has so many different great promotions, tournaments, et cetera, lots of different options as well, including the bet share. And the bet share is pretty simple. It just got social with Twin Spires. Split the cost of your bet with friends. Split the winnings too. You can be the captain or join in on the action. More players, more excitement. Tickets a little bit too expensive for you. Share it with friends. It's a great option to have. Try BetShare now on Twin Spires, the official wagering partner of the Kentucky Derby. Parlay Central, another great ad. Looking for bigger scores, Twin Spires Parlay Central lets you stack expert picks into one powerful bet. I suggest you follow Tony Kalo. Win one race, roll it to the next, bigger risk, bigger reward. Try Parlay Central on Twin Spires. There's Chief Wallaby. He's happy. He got into the Kentucky Derby field. We're going to see him train along with the other Kentucky Derby and Oaks contenders after we take a short break here on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With Twin Spires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires. And now you can race to victory with Twin Spires tournaments.
Elegance is an attitude.
We have hit the designated work time for the Kentucky Derby in highlighter yellow and the Kentucky Oaks. Hopefuls, competitors, horses that have earned points, if not to be able to run, but at least to be considered on the outside looking in. We saw Chief Wallaby, who, based on the defection of Otinho, gets into the Kentucky Derby field for trainer Belmont, Junior Alvarado, the same connections, Tony, that won Kentucky Derby 151 with Sovereignty. And this horse, again, taking a similar path. He's not as highly regarded at this stage, but he's got a great resume. And we talk about adding blinkers or equipment changes. It looks like he might be adding blinkers for the Derby. He suffers some losses of late, but very tough, narrow defeats to the likes of Commandment.
Yeah, no disgrace in his defeats. A very valiant second in the Fountain of Youth, and he was all heart in the Florida Derby. A lot of people, though, held that race against him. Perhaps that's why the equipment change is coming in the Kentucky Derby. It was an eye-catching maiden victory, which stamped him going forward, and I am very glad, as many fans are, that he has drawn in.
We've got Chief Wallaby disappearing from the racetrack. He's going into the paddock, and you know, this is what we call schooling as we bring in Kevin Kilroy again to kind of just talk about this process. So just stretching out the legs, now going into the paddock here, Kev.
Yeah, it's all about easing the nerves and giving the thoroughbred the chance to take it all in so that they've seen it before, right? You just don't want any unknowns that could maybe spook that sometimes fragile mind of the thoroughbred. So getting into the paddock, taking a look around, knowing it's a safe place, feeling confident there. Obviously, it's going to be a lot different on Kentucky Derby Day with the big crowd, but that just helps that thoroughbred to feel confident, feel at ease when they return on race day.
Let's send it to Caitlin Free, someone that spends a lot of time here in the paddock at Churchill.
Well, thanks, Joe. One thing that I've noticed now that we've used this paddock a couple of years, it's gotten to be really horse friendly. I really don't ever see horses, get too amped up in the paddock here. It's very spacious. There's enough of a walkway that Chief Wallaby's on now between us as well as the horses in the crowd, and the stalls for sure are definitely sizable in size, which makes it very, very good for when they're saddling these horses. There's padding and just a lot of extra space. There's that gap between the stalls and the wall. So this is a paddock that is very kind to horses that can maybe get amped up with a lot of things going on. The Derby obviously is an event like no other. It's loud. There's going to be a ton of people down here on Derby and Oaks Day. So it's good to get them used to the surroundings here and just kind of walk them around. There'll be a couple of times where they'll take them into those saddling stalls, put some tack on them, walk them around with a little bit of a weight on their back to simulate the saddle, and just kind of school them that way. We're going to see a lot more of that next week, guys.
Joel, if you're watching, Caitlin, I apologize. I promise by the end of the spring meet, I'm going to get it right 100% of the time. Caitlin Benson, who is our reporter here at Churchill Downs and giving us some insight into the schooling process with Chief Wallaby. There you see him just doing his thing. And, these trainers, Tony, Bill Mott, he's done this for so long. Steve Asmussen, especially the old school guy, they don't leave any stone unturned. Gate schooling, paddock schooling, even when it seems overly repetitive, they're going to take every last measure to make sure these horses are prepared.
It's what they're supposed to do, and Chief Wallaby's really taking the paddock in very nicely. Obviously, there's nobody there, so it's very calm conditions for him, but you have to give him a lot of credit. He didn't get hyped up at all during this experience, and just a very impressive horse, that's for sure. I love his colors. One of my favorite type of horses are those bays with that white marking on their face. He's absolutely beautiful, and he has the blood, constitution out of a Medaglia d'Oro mare. Just needs to improve just a little bit. Not much, just a little bit.
Owned and bred by Mike and Catherine Ball, who breed rather than sell about 7 or 8 horses a year. Odds aren't great that you're going to get a Kentucky Derby horse when you breed 7 or 8, so congratulations to them.
Like I said, I like this horse, definitely in my top 5.
His mother-in-law, Lucy, was a $1.1 million yearling. Never made it to the racetrack. There you see Chief Wallaby heading back out onto the track during this designated training time. Try to circle around here to see some of these other Oaks and Derby horses. Again, we had some rain last night, but the main track at Churchill dries out very well, and we are fast. I'm being told it's pretty quiet on the racetrack at this point of the morning. Some of the other Derby and Oaks contenders may have trained earlier, may have trained or might be training a little bit later. I know, Tony, the Cox Trio was supposed to come out at some point today, and Kaylin Free might have some more information for us on the back stretch. Let's go to her.
Yeah, I just, Declan Cannon just passed behind me a second ago, and when looking at Kevin Kirstein's notes, I remembered that Declan is going to play a role in what 6 Speed has coming up. He's going to be the rider on his back in the mornings, and I just kind of asked him, I was like, are we expecting 6 Speed here soon? I believe the 22nd is when he's supposed to arrive, but he's going to be handling a lot of the morning on-back duties with 6 Speed, of course, that horse for Bupat Simar, who ended up finishing second in the UAE Derby, really going to play a pivotal role in this year's Kentucky Derby, because I think he's probably the speed of the speed in this race. He breaks quite well from the gate, but Declan Cannon going to be on his back in the mornings, expecting him to arrive soon. We don't have a jockey announcement on that horse yet, so definitely something that I'm sure we'll hear about in the coming days.
Declan, very pivotal. As a rider in the afternoons, very accomplished, but he does a lot of work with Brendan Walsh and his stable and getting those horses schooled. And from Ireland, he has a lot of foreign connections as well. So I'm sure he's a great rider to give feedback on 6 Speed as he continues his preparations for Kentucky Derby 152. It'll be interesting. Chief Wallaby, if they do put the blinkers on him, he's not a real deep out the back closer. Maybe it's those narrow defeats. Maybe the connections think they can give him a couple of extra lengths, which he doesn't really need to be a contender here. But if that does happen, this horse is going to be a price despite the connections.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk. He was somewhat hesitant in the concluding stages of the Florida Derby, that he had the opportunity and just didn't seem to want to push on through, and perhaps the equipment change will allow him to do that and gain the extra length or two that is required. He has upside. He has only had 3 career starts, his last two-turn affairs. He gave Commandment all he could handle in the Fountain of Youth. Many people felt he had a more troubled trip than Commandment that particular day. It was somewhat disappointing, I guess, in the Florida Derby that he was right there and he just didn't seal the deal. He only got beat half a length. It's amazing how we as fans are so critical with defeats. I think you just need to recognize sometimes a horse getting defeated is just as good as a victory, because they can get so much out of it. I always talk about it on air, how I'm more impressed sometimes with horses' defeats than I am with their authoritative victories.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you might not cash that win bet that day, but maybe helps you inflate the price down the road. There you see Chief
He's
Wallaby.
been less than 3-1 in all 3 career starts. He might be double digits in the Kentucky Derby. 10-1, 15-1, right?
I would say at least 10. Let's go to Laura Lee. We talked about her earlier. Supplement to the Kentucky Oaks for Sky High Racing and Mike Maker, gate to wire winner in the Bourbonnette Oaks last time, and she's out for a gallop here, and not a lot of action. I will say, Tony, we did see a lot of horses work yesterday. There's a lot of horses that are still out of town that are in transit. When it comes to this designated training period, we're going to see a lot more action in the coming days with a plethora of horses on the track during this time.
Yeah, that's for sure. A lot of the big horses already had their works the last couple of days, and perhaps they're just stretching their legs once again in the shed row, or we just didn't get quite to see them go for a nice little jog in the morning. Lorelei Lee has had 3 career starts, all of them at Turfway Park. She was impressive in all of her races. She graduated at first asking, and the filly she defeated was able to come back and get to the winner's circle. She ran into a pretty good group in her subsequent start, a couple of very nice stakes fillies, Cadenza and Hen Party. They both came back and ran exceptionally well in a stakes race on concluding night, I believe the Serena Song at Turfway. And then her first start around 2 turns in the Bourbonnette Oaks, she was able to control the pace and go all the way. The question is synthetic to dirt, but if you look at her blood, there should be no questions. Nyquist out of a Tapit mare.
Yeah, she definitely improved stretching out 2 6-furlong races, then a mile and a 16. So limited activity during the designated training time. Today, Tony, we got to take a look back at some of those works from yesterday, some very impressive works that we saw yesterday and the day before. You know, these are the final major works because it's 2 weeks out. Next week, you know, we talk about tuning up. Next week is about the finishing touches.
Yeah, next week's a little bit more about maintenance moves. You know, a lot of horses will strut their stuff 2 weeks out in their workouts. The last workout is just kind of a maintenance move. Get the chinks out of the armor and get them ready 1 week out from the big dance.
We talked about updating our Derby and Oaks top 10 list, which you can find on the Kentucky Derby website under expert picks. I wanted to see all those works. I'm ready to do it now, and there'll be a couple horses moving up.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of changes in my top 10. Might be, I might move Commandment up to the number 1 spot because he's the horse that I'm rooting for the most. Not that I'm not rooting for all of them, but you got to pick one, and he's probably the guy I'm looking at. I'll move Further Ado up a little bit, and the Puma and Chief Wallaby, I think I'll flip-flop them, I believe.
All right, so talked about potential defections. We had one yesterday with Otinho. Star Contrast has not come out yet. They've been talking about him being more likely for the American turf on the grass. A work on April 17th, 59-4, which is a good time on the main track. I believe we have turf workouts today for horses that are nominated to stakes. I believe that's at 9:30 this morning. Obviously, Star Contrast won't be one of those horses because he just worked on the main track. But another horse that, Tony, you're familiar with.
Yeah, he ran a bang-up second to full effort in the Jeff Ruby. In stark contrast, had only had 1 prep as a 3-year-old. He ran a bang-up second to conclude his 2-year-old campaign in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile to Stade. That was an excellent effort and defeat, and he ran exceptionally well in the Ruby, and he missed some training going into the Ruby. So he's a horse that's very intriguing. I know he basically has been turf and synthetic throughout his life, but I think there is some blood there for the dirt. Not sure where they're going to go. The Emmermans had an opportunity a couple of years ago to get the Kentucky Derby experience with Endlessly after the Jeff Ruby, and Endlessly hasn't really panned out since, and I'm not sure if they want to do the same thing with Stark Contrast. We all thought Endlessly would have been a major player in the American turf that year. Stark Contrast will be a major player if he's in the American turf.
Let's go to another horse on the outside looking in. He is the maiden Oselli. I'm going to go to Kevin Kilroy here because, Kevin, I know you spent some time with Whit Beckman, his assistants out by the barn. This is a horse that is still a maiden, but he's held his own in some big races.
Yeah, and I've chased him in every one, Joe. He's had excuses. He's had plenty of excuses. He's found some of his own trouble, a little bit of greenness. They took the blinkers off last out in the wood. I thought he ran great. I really did. I was rooting him home and thought maybe I'd cash, but of course Albus did get it done there. He's had a lot of outside trips. He's going with Hulkamania in this one. I thought it was another nice move. He definitely is a solid horse. He could be interesting if he does get his spot in.
Yeah, and if he does run in a maiden race, he's going to be 3 to 5, you would guess, depending on who he faces, because these maiden races are
I won't chase
strong.
him at that price, Joe.
Yeah, there you go. You're not going to try to it'd take a little bit to get even at that price. Derby leaderboard again, Tony, just to revisit. There's the top 10. as long as there are no issues between now and entry day, they're going to enter. They are safe. Let's take a look at the second 10 here. And again, just some horses to spotlight. Iron Honor, there hasn't been a decision from Chad Brown, who did withdraw Otinho yesterday. There we see stark contrast. Again, more likely for the American turf. You see the three foreigners on the bottom of the list, 18 through 20, that earned their way in through overseas point system. On the outside looking in, the first two that would get in, a very important one in Chip Honcho for Steve Asmussen, who may be reconsidering running in the Derby over the Preakness, and then 23 as well, nearly for Todd Pletcher. I don't know this. I'm just guessing that maybe they'd like to get him in. Renegade certainly would like some pace to chase in the Derby.
And nearly would provide plenty of pace. That's his style.
And Trepido from Southern California for Jeff Mullins, and Bravaro, not to be confused with the star of the work show. Mark Bavaro, not to be confused with the star of the work show, Bravazzo, who was always the first horse on the track several years ago. Again, Tony, this is the first Derby without the coach, D. Wayne Lucas. It was always great to see those morning shots of he and Bob Baffert, just kind of hamming it up, by the gap over there. Just a legend in this game, and he will be greatly missed. He already is. James Scully and I always used to visit the barn every Kentucky Derby season, listen to Wayne's stories, and racing lost a good one in so many ways.
Without a doubt. It's been touched upon many times. I had the great fortune of meeting Wayne a long, long time ago in Northern California when he would venture up to Bay Meadows and Golden Gate Fields. And you took me over to meet him again. It had been many, many years, a couple years ago, and just a class act, that's for sure. And it's pretty cool that Mike Maker now is in his barn, a longtime assistant to Wayne, so maybe some of the magic will go there.
Nice control gallop from Chief Wallaby today. Did a little bit of paddock schooling, but more so, Tony, the works that we saw from yesterday. What impressed you the most? You talked about maybe moving some horses up on your respective lists. I mean, where are we at right now?
Well, still to be determined. Obviously, post position draw will definitely be the final touches. The Puma, that's for sure. I had some concerns about the Puma. He's had such a lot of races in an abbreviated time, and finally he's going to get 5 weeks. And I was wondering if those 2 tough races in March took anything out of him. That workout that we saw this morning was pretty good.
Yeah, the Puma did not start at 2. Either did Emerging Markets, who also had a very nice work for Chad Brown. We're going to throw it to Kevin Kilroy next. Kevin, not a lot of action on the 4th floor for you to digest today.
Yeah, not a lot of action, but still great to see Chief Wallaby. He's so classy. He's a big guy. He's got it physically, and he's showing me his class every morning that we've seen him out here. He just sort of holds himself like the king of the court. And if you're looking at the sheets on Chief Wallaby, he's got just as quick of numbers as Commandment, the Puma, just one digit behind Further Ado. So he's a big time player in here, and you're going to get a fair price on him. Chief Wallaby, he's showing me everything that I need to see to give a vote of confidence to him.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Lots more activity expected during the designated training time over the next few days when horses continue to arrive and continue to train for both the Derby and the Oaks. Caitlin Free's got a Caitlin Bentz. I'm 0 for 5 today, Caitlin. I'm sorry.
You'll eventually get used to it, or maybe you won't, because I'm not completely used to it, and it's my own name. But yeah, I think we're going to see quite a few more horses on track this morning. I mentioned it earlier on in the show. Silent Tactic just got here. I think he was out this morning. The Puma we're expecting out here tomorrow, as well as Emerging Market. They're supposed to arrive a little bit later today. The Puma's a horse I'm really excited to see, especially after that workout. This is a horse that I've kind of played around moving to the top of my list. Commandment's up there right now. Everything out of the Florida Derby, the Puma, Commandment, Chief Wallaby, I really like all of those horses. So I think I'm probably going to flop Commandment in the Puma at this present moment, but I'm really comfortable liking those 3. So I'm excited to see him on track coming up. And when Mage was here, Gustavo Delgado was in this same clocker stand with me as I was, and he was watching Mage page on my little screen here, and I just remember that so vividly, so I'm excited to see all of them again. But lots to look forward to in the coming days. A little bit of a quiet morning here, but it was definitely a nice one. It's beautiful out.
Yeah, the temperatures are supposed to continue to improve over the course of the next couple of days. We'll be back in the 70s. Now, I've only known her as Ren Carruthers, but I did find out late last year that her first name is actually Renee. We're going to check in with Ren. Great report earlier with Brendan Walsh, Ren.
Thank you so much. Brendan's always a joy to speak with, and I can't help but root for him and his barn. I love storylines like that where you have pedigree come through so consistently at grade 1 level in races like the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. And so if he can get that Bella Ballerina double with Pretty Mischievous as being Oaks winners, I think that would be pretty awesome. I actually tried to hoof it over to the Mark Casse barn to find out what's going on with Silent Tactic and Counting Stars, but it's very quiet back here. But things are bound to liven up as we progress day after day here, covering the works for the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. Again, such a gift to be part of this team. And I'm going to go warm up, take that opportunity to do that now. But until next time, back to you, Joe and Tony, up there in the studio.
All right, well, Ren did mention Silent Tactic. He was out earlier, a recent arrival here to Churchill Downs for trainer Mark Casse. Let's take a look at Silent Tactic. Again, this is earlier today, Tony, and this is a horse that wintered at Oaklawn Park in Hot Springs, Arkansas, ran very well in their preps there. He was a winner a couple of races ago, and most recently lost nothing in defeat because he lost to the horse that's number 1 on my list.
Yeah, that was an awesome performance from Renegade, and Silent Tactic was second best that particular day. What a great rebel he put in. What a display of fightness, grittiness and tenacity in that defeat to class president. He's a horse that's kind of falling a little bit under the radar. You know, we talk about odds a lot, 7-2 in his last 2 preps. He's a horse that's probably going to be 20+1 when it's all said and done on Derby Day. Silent Tactic, Chief Wallaby, and Golden Tempo. Those are the 3 horses outside of the major contenders that I have my eye on for exotics on Kentucky Derby.
6 starts, 2 wins, 4 seconds. Never worse than the place spot in his career. Silent Tactic. I think that's a horse you definitely want to consider for your tries and superfectas.
Yes.
All right, Twin Spires. Lots of great promotions, lots of great options, tournaments. They've really stepped it up course of the last several years. We talked about this a little bit earlier with the bet share option. It just got social with the bet share. You can split the cost of the wager with your friends. Tony Kalo puts together a $300 pick 5 and he doesn't want to spend all that money. You could share it with Caitlin Benson, Ren Carruthers, Kevin Kilroy, and myself through our Twin Spires accounts. You can be the captain, just like Captain Kalo to my left. More players, more excitement. Try BetShare now on Twin Spires, the official wagering partner of the Kentucky Derby. Share the thrill. And in addition, at Twin Spires, Parlay Central. I know, Tony, and I could just read this script here, but this is something that you take advantage of on a daily basis. Being able to parlay horses in different races, not the daily double or the pick 3. You like a horse in the 3rd, 5th, and 7th, you can put them all in a parlay at Twin Spires.
It's pretty awesome. I believe you have to go to the mobile device to get that done on the by yourself. Now you can piggyback some of the expert picks on the Parlay Central on other devices. But yeah, yesterday I had a few of them going to Burnham Square, and I just couldn't quite piece the puzzle together in the earlier races. But I love these Parlay Centrals, and hopefully during the upcoming Churchill Downs meet, I'll give you some good ones.
Lots of good stuff at Twin Spires. Make sure if you haven't sign up for an account. They've got lots of great promotions going on this time of year. And Tony, you're going to roll through it here on the morning work show. I'm going to get a breather tomorrow, and the next couple of days, you got Travis Stone in the seat next to you, and that's going to be a must-watch TV.
Yeah, Travis is so informative, very knowledgeable, and I enjoy being on the set with you, but I'm also looking forward to seeing what Travis has to say about what he's been watching.
And I will enjoy watching it from home.
I bet you will.
The Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show again tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a great day, everybody.